さたしろ
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 215 of the Saturn Studs podcast. That number has some significance. But anyway, I'm Kurt, joined once again this week by my futuristic co-hosts, Peter and Jake.
That's right. We're coming at you this week with the spiked cookie dough latte edition of the cast. A drink so ridiculous that you can only have it for breakfast.
You should always have alcohol for breakfast.
I'll read you, Jake, I did not read you off this drink. I read Kurt the name of this drink before the show. Now keep in mind, this is what I had for breakfast, and it came in, I want to say, a 32-ounce soup tureen. So the spiked cookie dough latte, $10. 2 shots of black pearl espresso, cookie dough flavored syrup, vodka, Irish cream, and milk.
Is that what you got this morning?
That is what I got this morning.
I thought it was just a regular coffee until he told me.
Yeah.
I was like, Peter, I think you might have a problem.
I didn't realize you got a spiked drink.
I don't even get coffee in the morning. I just felt like dying today.
That's okay. Hey, we all have those days where we just want to not wake up, but
sometimes you don't want to wake up.
Sometimes you just want to.
And the song ends.
And of course, as always,
you go direct a movie with John Travolta.
Oh, John Travolta. That sounds like
John Travago.
That sounds like purgatory. I feel like that's like director's purgatory. Is like directing a movie. You're just constantly directing a movie with John Travolta or Nick Cage, maybe. That too.
I think Nick Cage would be worse.
It's just always in production. You're just always having to do reshoots.
John Woo. If you're John Woo, you do it with both of them.
What
movie is called Face Off?
What Expendables? What Expendables do you have to get to before you have to include Nick Cage, Travolta, and Steven Seagal in it?
But Steven Seagal shares the spotlight with no man. So, like, all the other Expendables will have to be dead, which means you'll have to have Steven Seagal on his fucking motorized wheelchair doing his Aikido on nameless goons.
I can only imagine that shooting that movie would be like hell. And
didn't we come up with some movie where Steve Seagal was in a wheelchair and it was like a gay love story?
I hope we did.
I vaguely remember something like this. It just went
God.
off the rails, as our improv bits often do.
I could just see like John Travolta just getting all manic and crazy, and John Travolta getting all manic and crazy, and Steve Seagal getting all manic and like one's gonna be like really controlling. One of them's gonna be like, "Let's do it, guys. Let's all work together and put out the best movie we can do."
All I want to see out of an insane production like that, and I don't care which trashy actors you hire, all I want is 3 household names doing a synchronized line of cocaine off the same table. Just zoop.
What about off of the same hooker?
Yes. Fantastic. Better points if the hooker is also a celebrity who is past her prime.
Who would that be?
I don't know.
Women actors, Madonna.
No, Rosie O'Donnell.
See,
Oh,
they
God.
should get actors like that and do like a Golden Girls, but male version.
No, worse.
Of that Golden Boys.
Roseanne Barr.
Roseanne
Golden
Barr.
Boys.
That's actually what I was thinking of. The Golden Boys.
Yeah, the Golden Boys.
I want to thank
Despite till they're like a little bit older.
It would be the Salt and Pepper Club.
Yeah.
Mostly salt. Except you'd have salt and pepper there.
Yes, I was about to say you'd have to have Salt and Peppa guest star.
I was
Will
about
do.
to conflate Peppa and Pusha T into Peppa T.
I mean, that's a super group right there waiting to happen.
Yeah.
So if Pepper ever got her doctorates, would she have to like get into a copyright dispute between Her and Dr. Pepper.
I think
No, because Dr. Pepper is Pepper and Peppa is Peppa.
Yeah.
Oh, like the
and
pig.
besides, there is
Yeah.
we have precedent for this case.
Oh.
There is a person with a legal name right now who is Marijuana Pepsi, and she's doing fine. Pepsi's not sued her for having her name.
I feel like marijuana should sue them.
The plant.
Yeah.
Oh,
The
God.
conglomerate, the plant.
I think that's an actual thing. Now, the weird tangent. This is almost an actual thing, because like every other industry, rich conglomerates are buying up all the small marijuana dispensaries and owning the business from the back end, just like every other niche consumer product. Yay!
It's funny because
And,
alcohol companies are
No one is surprised.
alcohol companies are trying to buy them up too, and they're gonna
Well, that
be
just
making
makes sense.
they're gonna be making like weed beer and shit like that. And
I have heard it exists already. I have heard of cannabis, like just derived beers, but
Cannabeers?
I've never once been like, that sounds like a good idea.
I had one.
because-
It's got a really weird aftertaste.
That probably.
Yes, I don't know if either of you or anyone out there listening has ever had an edible, but you don't do it because it tastes great.
You're not like Gordon Ramsay on this shit and be like, finally some good fucking food.
It's a you bury the taste of this fucking demon plant in your baked good so that you can tolerate it.
I mean, they're made with brownies because brownies are just so overpowering. Like,
Yes.
just-
Yes, that's why it's chocolate chip cookies and brownies are the two most popular, because they are very powerful tastes that can mask it. If we can find a way to get orange juice in there somehow, then like if you distill a liquor from cannabis and make like a screwdriver with that,
Like a screw.
Damn.
now you're on to
Oh
something.
my god. That'd be amazing.
I think you got to do it before Bud Light fucking takes it and becomes Bud.
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 That's the only upshot of corporate weed,
Yeah.
is having Bud Light make a Bud Light.
Yeah, like I remember when I didn't really know that terminology when I got to college, and people were like, "Oh man, do you have Bud?" And I was like, "No, who the fuck drinks their shitty rice beer?" And then I realized what they meant, and I was like, "Oh yes, right this way, sir."
Allow me to show you. Hey Jake, where are we today?
Hey,
Where's my
I'm
GPS?
I'm glad you asked. Because we're coming at you guys live. We all muted ourselves because we're on a Zoom call with all of E3. 3,000 people just sweaty and huffing and puffing and cosplaying from their homes, trying to figure
Say
out.
hi, E3.
It's really
didn't say anything.
sad to try. If you've never seen a cosplayer try to like angle and contort their bodies to show off their costume through a Zoom call, you have not yet lived.
Yikes. I can't imagine the horror.
The only benefit is they get to bring in their foam weapons. Before they
right.
were not allowed because, God forbid, if they have Nerf swords.
I mean, we
You-
can't have a boffer fight break out in the middle of E3. That'd be
Yeah, it
chaos.
would
You-
just be ridiculous.
You put an awful idea into my head, Jake.
Mhm.
And that's that there is definitely someone who has been on a Zoom call with a hentai background.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, 100%. Like, if I had a better relationship with my coworkers, I would do that.
Just a
Set up
big
the,
would
titty
appreciate-
the
ant.
Nakamura pillows in the fucking background for your waifu.
If they would appreciate the joke, I would 100% have like a green screen with some hentai back.
Well, no, you don't even need a green screen. You can already do that in Zoom. They have a background function where you can take an image, put it in the background, and because we live in the age where facial recognition technology is scarily dystopian, the video will cut out your face. It'll do an automatic cutout live feed mask of your body, and then put the background in behind
Yeah.
you.
That's why you can, like, people have taken screenshots of them.
Terrifying.
They've taken, like, screenshots of them, like, just looking focused. and then save that as their background and then walk away.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive.
Can you use a video and just like have a video of you nodding intermittently?
That would be amazing. I haven't seen that yet, but I thought that's where the next step is put like a little a GIF of them just yeah. Oh.
Interesting. Yeah. Good point.
One of these days, somebody will master the technology, and then we can all slack
Someday.
off easier.
Someday love will find you.
Breaking.
We got trailers to talk about today.
We finally do.
Yeah.
We have trailers, both game and movie alike, but mainly game. But there's surprisingly
Also
a lot of
watch.
movie trailers.
I have a few. We'll start. I want to start just with an image that I shared to the Discord. If you look up One Day at a Time animated special, for I guess around season 3, they're doing an animated special. This is the Cuban American sitcom Netflix show about a family in Los Angeles. Yeah, I just like, sure, whatever, fine. I'm sure people who like it, they'll be like, oh, an animated special. But I'm looking at this, and it's looking yikes. This looked like a
the
boardwalk
art style.
caricature artist just was given license to make an episode of
Yeah.
an animated TV show.
It looks like someone did it on their drawing tablet in about 15 minutes.
Yeah, which I would assume they were. Like, they probably paid 2 to 5 people to make this whole episode.
Yeah, they don't look like individual characters. They definitely look like they were characters of the voice actors.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's working.
Because I'm guessing because the voice actors couldn't get together to film an episode, so they just got their voice work in. I don't know how the audio is going to be on that. But
Is this not like normally a live action show? And
It
are
is-
these not just models of the characters on the show?
yeah, it's normally a live action show.
Okay.
Oh,
So
Yeah, so this is just a one-off special, which I feel like they just did to pad out coronavirus time.
yeah.
And Lin-Manuel Miranda is going to come in. I think he's the guy in the
Oh.
bike shirt with the froofy hair. Maybe?
No,
maybe
he's the
not.
guy next to him. He's the guy with the
Oh.
pockets. That's Lin-Manuel Miranda. That's why he looked familiar. I was like, oh, fuck,
The most nondescript looking of the bunch,
yeah.
because he's a guest on the show and they couldn't caricaturize him.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
It's like when The Simpsons brings on the celebrity guest. Sort of. Although,
They typically do a pretty good job with that.
I mean, most celebrities enjoy being Simpsonized, I would think. I know
Bret
I
Hart
would.
was once on The Simpsons.
All right. Speaking of incompetent fathers, Dads, not the sitcom, that failed and burned, never to be seen on this earth while it rotates on its axis. We're talking about the Bryce Dallas Howard directed miniseries on Apple TV, in which various celebrities talk about kids
Being dads, yeah.
being fathers.
They
Oh, it's just
have
on Apple TV. I heard about this
Yeah.
as like an advertisement for like men's Dove soap.
Yeah, okay. I believe
For
it.
some reason, it's sponsored by Dove men's soap, and they're just like, we also help make a documentary about being a dad.
Well,
And-
I think the Dove Men's like soap ad campaign is sort of like, dads, don't just drink football and fucking like hit people. You're not fucking Hank Hill out here. Although Hank Hill was a reasonable father
Yeah, it's great.
Frank Hill was a good dad.
who he did connect with his son on his own level. It was great. Good job,
Well,
Hank
he
Hill.
would get into the things that his son. I always remember the fucking episode where Bobby gets into like competitive rose growing.
Oh,
Hank Hill gets like super into it. He's like, I need to remove an interior petal. Give me my tools.
that reminds me of the Bob's Burgers episode where he gets into competitive dining room, like a table setting.
Oh, okay. Table arrangements.
Yeah, table arrangements, and they have like themes for each one. And Bob was like, "This is dumb," but then he gets all into it because they're good dads.
Bob's
Just like
Burgers.
Hank Hill wasn't a fan of rose growing at first, but then he had to find the spirit of competition because he's like, "Oh, Bobby, you ought to be in football. We're in Texas, and I'm a propane man."
Feel the power of my stand. Propane nightmare. That's a classic video. Classic memes.
Yeah. So I mean, like, conceptually, I think this is good. And I think the role of fathers in our society is very much ignored in this era of we need to build up everyone else.
Yeah.
But I think it cannot. As someone who did not have the best relationship with their father as a child, I can tell you that it has done damage to me psychologically. So be a good dad if you have kids.
Yeah.
Be prepared and be a good dad. Spend time with your kids.
Yeah, and too many times we focus on dumb fucking women. I'm like, finally, a movie about men. I'm kidding. For legal reasons,
Quiet.
that was a joke.
Legally, I must inform you that is a joke.
No, but it's cool to see this. I hope I kind of hope they mix it. 'Cause I thought I remember seeing in the Dove's Men commercial, where there was like everyday normal civilian dads, like non-celebrity dads, as
Yeah,
well
that's the
giving their
thing that-
testimony.
That's the thing about this that kind of seems hollow.
Yeah.
Is that like the Bryce Dallas Howard comes in, she's like, I wanted to like see what it's like, all these people and their thoughts about being a dad, but it's all like celebrities, and being a celebrity dad, it's a whole different ball game from being a regular dad.
Yeah.
Because like these guys have obscene amounts of money and like not normal 9-to-5 jobs.
Although
That they have to balance with their kids.
that would be an interesting show. Like, you could make thing out of that, celebrity dads versus like layperson dads.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what Jake was talking
Yeah.
about,
I-
to have that counter perspective.
Yeah, I think it'd be really cool that I'm hoping that's where this goes. I mean, maybe they can't do it because of COVID reasons, but if they could like get the two, like the celebrity dads and the normal dads, just talking and like comparing their lives, I think that'd be a really cool look at it, because you're right. Yeah, the civilian dads are gonna have normal 9-to-5 jobs, and they're gonna have their normal hours, and they might have more time with their kids. But the celebrity dads might be like, oh, I have to go on some stints of like not seeing my kid for a week or 2 weeks at a time, and that really hurts. So it'd be interesting to get a look at that. But then again, the civilian dads are like, well, we have to worry about paying a mortgage every month. We weren't able to buy our house outright, and you have all these issues that you don't have to worry about, but
At the
trade-off
try to
is here.
find like after school care programs.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
like
they can't
all
just
that
hire
sort
a
of stuff.
nanny.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. I hope that's where they take it.
Yeah. I won't watch it to find out.
Because I don't have Apple TV.
I don't have Apple TV nor a strong interest in this show.
I don't really
But, hey.
click with it because I'm pretty sure I don't have kids. I could be wrong. Sorry to any of my
Well,
exes who
I have
thought you were joking.
animal kids.
Yeah.
Kid.
Yeah, you almost had a real kid.
What?
You were one
don't talk
fucking
about
butterfly flap away from having
What?
being an actual baby daddy at one point. I don't think we can talk about that on the cast.
No, for legal purposes, that is also a joke.
I think it's normal for all of us guys to have at least a few pregnancy scares in a day. And then you're like, all right, what's my escape plan?
Yeah, it's for legal purposes. This is a joke, but I will say, just never believe a bitch who says she's on birth control unless you see her take the goddamn pill. They be crafty. They may try to trap you.
It's a really easy lie to pull off.
Oh, speaking of pregnancy scares, Will Ferrell's new movie,
Oh?
Eurovision.
That was
This is a pregnancy scare of a movie? It's like, shit.
No,
My
that
life.
was almost real.
Is this a fever
she said
dream?
she was on the pill, but 9 months later, Eurovision Song Contest came out.
I thought that was a joke. I thought we were going to laugh about it.
Netflix's condom broke.
And then you went and produced it. What the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, this trailer shows way too much, as Netflix trailers are wont to do. A trailer should never be 3 minutes. I think that's just a hard, fast rule.
That's like an excerpt from the movie. Like, that's where, like, for a trailer like that, what you need to do is you show the first action-packed scene. You show the hook of your movie.
Yeah, like they did with Tenet. I don't know what movie it was. I think it was in front of Joker. They played, like, one of the scenes from Tenet where they're, like, in an opera house and they're doing some sort of, like, mission. And it was very, very interesting, very engaging. I didn't know what was happening because I'm like, this doesn't look like Joker to me. It wasn't until the very end that it said Tenet. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, that was pretty fucking cool.
Or you do a 40-minute TV special that you put in front of your movie. Olaf! Never forgiven. Never forgiven.
Never forgiven.
Never. That's
But
why I
Eurovision
played Kingdom
Song-
Hearts. Yeah. Eurovision Song Contest. I did not see the subtitle, The Story of Fire Saga. So I saw Will Ferrell's face in the thumbnail, and I saw Eurovision Song Contest, and my brain just could not connect these two parts. I was like, why? And then I clicked on it, and it's like The Story of Fire Saga. I'm like, oh, okay. So the premise, I can tell you this whole movie because they pretty much did a small miniaturized version of this. So
Again,
Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams play people in a band called Fire Saga. They're Icelandic, and they want to win the Eurovision Song Contest. And through some form of debauchery, they're selected to represent Iceland. For those of you who don't know, the Eurovision Song Contest is like an American Idol style pan-Europa
song show
where one musical act, and they can be professional musical acts. That's kind of where it's different from a lot of the same competitions you see in America. Represents their particular country, and they play a song, or maybe it's more than one, but usually it's just a song, and then everyone votes on their favorite song, and that act wins. And surprisingly, it does not always turn out to be the most populous country that wins. It is far less a popularity contest than you would see in an American singing show.
And the reason it's selected here is because in addition to the songs being from like just everywhere, the production value is wild and meme worthy.
Yeah.
This is where we got Epic Sax Guy from. He was, I want to say, Bolivia, one of a B. It starts with a B. Shit.
Bulgaria.
Bulgaria, maybe. Let me let's
Belgium?
confirm. Epic
Belgium.
Sax Guy country.
Botswana.
He's Moldova. It's for Moldova.
Moldova.
Okay, so not a
Moldova?
Moldova.
Gravetide?
And
So
so this is the guy's name is Sergei Igorovich Stepanov from
Of course it is.
yeah, that makes sense.
Transnistria. in Moldova.
These all sound made up.
Transnistria.
None of that sounded real at
Peter,
all.
your improv is really, really good today. Like,
It's fucking choice, kids.
That sounds like something that would come out of a fucking Mad Lib.
Right? And the band is called Sunstroke.
You also got such favorites as Lordi with their song Hard Rock Hallelujah, a band notable for dressing up like demons and having fireworks and they're shooting out their guitars.
Oh my
The song was
God.
actually pretty good. It won that year. Their
Nice.
finish.
Solid.
Yeah, so Will Ferrell, his dad is Pierce Brosnan, which I find funny because if I'm not mistaken, they're either very close in age or Will Ferrell might actually be older than Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah.
that was Pierce Brosnan. Jeez.
There are two kinds of men in this world. One who takes salt, what's the fucking Rogaine for men? Salt and pepper, whatever the fuck. And people who take the blonde hair dye.
The Just for Men Touch Gray.
Yeah, that's the one.
All right, so Pierce Brosnan is 67 and Will Ferrell is 52. So he is quite a bit older. However,
That's still older
that's
brother
only
territory.
12 years.
I've never heard of
Yeah.
a 12-year-old having a kid, but
I've heard of a 13-year-old having a kid.
Yes, but
As long
that's
as you can-
an abnormality.
as long as you can make the cream, you can make the dream. Anyways, the father is not a fan of Will Ferrell, and that's a running joke that's going to get really old really fast in this movie. That nobody really likes this band, this duo.
Yeah.
They are made fun of in front of their face. They are made fun of. They are like groaned at or booed when they're playing a live show. The dad says, "You're a disgrace to me." They do some Will Ferrell style comedy. Some of it's very Will Ferrell-y.
Which is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess not. This one I
So-
think was one of the ones that fell short. Like when Rachel McAdams is like, she's like, "Oh, I'm sure your dad was drunk," and then he's like, "Oh," and then he said, "I'm sure you're thinking I'm drunk, and I'm not." I'm just like,
You may
oh.
think I am drunk, but I assure you I am
Stone
completely
sober.
sober.
Let's talk about scenes that are definitely going to be in this movie, even though they weren't in the trailer, because this looks fairly formulaic. We got this. There's going to be the scene where he makes a scene at a restaurant in front of his father. Like, they ask him to play a set or something. Like, they're at a bar and he's trying to reconcile his father. It's like, "This is my choice, Fasha. This is what I want to do." And so it's like, our band is out. We need a gig for the next set. And he's like, "Okay, I'll show you now. I'll show you my dream, Fasha." He goes up and he does some like weird ass. And he's like, "Are you proud of me? Are you proud?"
Oh, there's definitely gonna be a flashback scene when like Will Ferrell's a kid
And he still has the long
and he
ass
still
hair.
has a long ass hair, and Pierce,
He looks like old Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
He's going to be like 18 in the flashback, but he's going to look the same.
And they're gonna make some weird like USSR joke. Because, well, Iceland, no, it's not in the USSR, but a lot of these
Iceland was on the
other
opposite
side
Europe.
of the continent. So maybe not that.
Detached
but it's gonna
from
be
the continent, really.
yeah. They're gonna make some weird Europe jokes. I feel like just like, "Oh, I'm so European, aren't I crazy?"
Yeah, you're going to have names like Transnistria and Sergei Igorvat Stepanov.
Yes, there's gonna. Oh, what's the fucking fermented shark? I think that's Icelandic. Yes, it is. They're gonna make a fucking Hakarl joke where they go and have a party. He's like, "We're going to celebrate in the traditional Icelandic way with Hakarl," and it's notorious for being disgusting, such that the way to prepare it is it's in a can. You crack the can underwater to suppress the smell
ugh.
outside, That's how nasty it is. So they're gonna open it in the hotel room, and he's just gonna start vomiting everywhere.
Okay.
Right?
So,
he's
yeah,
like, it's so tasty. Try it's a delicacy. Yes.
And then we also have the villain of the movie.
Yeah.
Who comes in? He's like another contestant in the show and tries to steal Rachel McAdams away or something.
Well, I mean, Rachel McAdams, there's a scene they show where, like, the romance subplot emerges, and she goes to kiss him, and he's like, no, it always ruins the band.
Yeah, and they're gonna fuck later. You just know. It's just gonna happen.
And he will eventually earn his father's begrudging respect in a very comedic fashion.
Yep.
In a Step Brothers fashion, where he's going to confide in him that he also had a weird dream.
Yeah.
Like when the dad and stepdad's like, I wanted to be a dinosaur. Made my arms real short. You can't be a dinosaur. It's impossible.
So the only thing I wish out of this movie is that the female lead was like the female version of John C. Reilly. I just want a female John C. Reilly.
Who would that be? Like Molly Shannon?
I don't think it exists. We haven't made the conversion yet.
What if we just put John C. Reilly in drag?
I might watch that.
You know what this really reminds me of is Pitch Perfect. Because there's gonna be so many scenes with like when they're doing the songs, and then they're gonna have the announcer just make commentary over it, and like that's gonna be the main focus of it instead of the songs.
You know who would have been great at that?
Yeah,
Fred Willard.
Yeah, Fred Willard.
Rip.
Oh, he was what? He was in Blades of Glory, right?
Probably.
Was he? I mean, I'm sure that.
It's another Will Ferrell movie, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Willard Blades.
No.
Yeah, I didn't get a hit.
He was in Ron. Was he in? Yeah, he was. Of course, Anchorman. What the fuck am I talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. Come on. Hell, Peter.
Man, he looked very frail towards the end there.
Yeah, if you see the I don't know if you've watched Space Force at all, but his scenes in Space Force, I don't know if he was hamming it up for it. I'm hoping he was, but he was like shaking, and it looked too real. It was like, does he actually have like? Is he shaking because he's old, or is he shaking because the character has Parkinson's a little bit? But it was kind of eerily too much, and I was like, and then he's dead, and I'm like, fuck.
Space Force, and so, oh god, there's that whole copyright thing where there's going to be a copyright dispute between the branch of the government and fucking the Netflix show. So 2020.
Yeah, put that on your bingo card and smoke it.
Who had copyright dispute between a Netflix show and the military?
I didn't have that. I didn't have woke NASCAR. I was fucking. It's wild.
Yeah, woke
here.
NASCAR.
Is that really even woke, or is that like? Yeah, this is probably time we do away with a fucking monument to
it's
a
woke
hostile
for NASCAR.
foreign power.
Yeah, We'll call it passive progressive at the very least.
It's like when people bitch about like the Confederate general statues being taken down. I'm like, why would you have a monument to a hostile foreign power in your country?
Yeah.
That'd be like if we had a monument to Saddam Hussein in like North Dakota.
Like,
yes.
Go back to your own country. Oh wait, you can't because we beat it when you tried to fucking secede. It's not even the right Confederate flag, you idiot. That always gets my goat too.
But them Duke boys had it on their car.
But yeah, they did. So it must be the right one. Let's not worry about historical context at all.
There are kids in my school who would insist that it was the battle flag of Virginia, which it may very well be, I guess. But damn, if the common connotation isn't fucking the secessionists,
States of America. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's sort of death of the author on that one. just the fucking wildest story for me again. The weirdest one. I don't know. It was some variety of internalized racism or something. I can't speak for this guy, but there was a black co-student, friend, student. I don't know. I wasn't like super close to him, but we were classmate. That's the one. We were on spring break vacation and like the class trip down to Virginia Beach, and he got a henna tattoo of the fucking Confederate flag.
Maybe like, he's just a Skinnerd fan.
What are you doing? I don't know. Last I heard, he was a firefighter. He's doing awesome.
What?
Good for you, kid.
What would like be the most shocking 2020? I don't think anyone would have on this big word. If like Lynyrd Skynyrd or Ted Nugent, like distance themselves from the Confederate flag.
Yeah. Oh my God. I want to see Ted Nugent fucking fight the institution. You just gotta really pitch him on the pro Second Amendment stuff. Like the police are coming and they can fight us, and we need to fight back against them. He's like, all right, get me and my fucking arsenal out there. I'll bring the whole militia.
Yeah. You know, the part of the Second Amendment that everyone always, like, conveniently forgets, the part about the well-regulated militia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I want Ted Nugent and his posse to play a fucking concert at the picket line. Right? On one side, it's the po-po, on one side, it's the pro-pro.
There's a 70-year-old man from Night Ranger in there. Get him. Ted Nugent was not Night Ranger, but he was in the supergroup called Damn Yankees, where it was Ted Nugent, a guy from Styx, and a guy from Night Ranger.
Oh my God.
Holy shit.
And they had music video where Ted Nugent deflects bullets with the power of his rocking.
Fucking fantastic.
What the shit? That sounds like some Eurovision stuff.
And we've gone full circle, kids.
Yeah, we did it. Brought it around.
Yeah. That's on my bingo card now for the rest of the year. We'll see. All right. And then we have Saul Skyman.
Saul Skyman.
Or as it's known by its actual name, Skyman. I think it's a documentary kind of deal. Like, I don't know. So the story of the movie or documentary, I'm not sure if it's a true story or thing, but kid was there is a UFO sighting, and a kid says he was visited by a sky man. And years later, as an adult, he's getting signs that he has to come back and try and make contact again. So from the trailer, it looks like he just sets up a satellite dish, a shipping crate house, and a trailer in the middle of the desert, and just hangs out waiting for aliens.
Neil Breen style.
Yeah.
How many cans of tuna does he have?
You know, not entirely different. This could be the man that Double Down was based on. I put the trailer in the.
Yeah, I'm watching it now.
Does he have a magic cancer rock?
Maybe.
He since reported seeing a triangle-shaped object in the skies of Barstow, California.
Comments are turned off.
Yep.
This does look like the production values of it. It looks like I would say this is probably a This Is Spinal Tap sort of like mockumentary, or What We Do in the Shadows sort of deal.
I would hope so.
Is it a mockumentary? Or is it?
I mean, the way it's shot to look like a documentary, but also like the events that I'm seeing in the trailer are certainly not real.
Yeah. It does seem very forced. So who knows how legit it is. Or they might just be hamming it up for the ha-has.
Sticking to the skies, Prime Video has a new movie starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who is a fine actor, called 7500. It is a movie about a plane hijacking. And it's one of those movies that seemingly takes place in one room. Essentially, it's just going to be Joseph Levitt acting his best in the cockpit as these hijackers kill hostages, and he has to try to figure out a way to save as many people in the plane. I think this would be a movie that would be frustrating for me to watch because very little of substance will actually happen.
Yeah, unless there's a crazy twist, I don't really know what there's like gonna be. I mean, most of it just seemed like the terrorists were bringing people up, and there's a love interest that's on the plane with him. Well, his girlfriend, I think, is just on the plane with him. She's a stewardess or flight attendant. I'm sorry, that was insensitive of me, and I formally apologize to all my flight attendant people out there.
What would be the male equivalent of stewardess?
Steward.
Like, steward, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that sounds like just like a custodian of records.
I think that's why why they changed it to like flight attendant, because like stewardesses were like they felt it was sexist, maybe.
I don't know. All I know is that I'm pretty sure that there was a wardrobe requirement for stewardesses to, like, you know, be pretty and all that. I'm pretty sure there's a requirement that all male flight attendants must be bald. Right? I can't picture a male flight attendant with hair.
Or awkwardly tall. I've seen a few with hair, but they're all like awkwardly tall.
They're bent over the whole time, like fucking Igor.
And there is a weird stereotype, and I'm not sure why, that like most of them are gay. She said, I had a friend. Yeah. I have a friend who's a flight attendant, and I asked her about it, and she's like, out of like the 6 or 7 guys that were in her class for flight attendant school, like 5 out of the 7 guys were gay. 5 or 6 were gay, and she's like, most of the ones she runs into are gay. I don't know why.
Something about the travel. I mean, like, there are a lot of women in flight attendants, so like I feel like there's some sort of shared interests between gay men and women, obviously men, but but some other tangential shared interests that kind of draw them to the same career fields a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Some weird sort of bias thing there, yeah.
I think there's a little bit in like soul searching, to be quite honest, because it's a lot of travel. You get a lot of travel in, and travel's usually a part of like finding who you are and exploring the world, and they don't have to be tied down to anything at the moment. Yeah. Be your own independent person.
This is where I would recommend the documentary Why Do I Sound Gay? It's sort of it's a documentary about a dude who's trying to figure out why he sounds gay and why the affect is so common among people. I was just thinking about the intersectionality of gay men and femininity or feminine spaces. I don't know. Trying to connect things here.
Yeah, it is kind of an interesting like thought experiment as to why there's no, like, to our knowledge currently, there's no biological reason that people are or are not homosexual, yet they do tend to share a lot of similar physical characteristics.
And it's not like a choice. It's like that's just
it's a compulsion.
Yeah.
Like they I mean that sounds worse. It's an innate trait, not a compulsion.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's very interesting. I think that's one of the few areas of psychology that I would be kind of interested to like read papers on. A lot of it's just like bullshit pontification, but I think if you could find some concrete links there, that'd be kind of interesting reading.
Either way, it's a topic that we would be out of our depth on.
Yes.
But we'll talk about it anyway.
For sure. And more to the point, I have to ask about the 7500 movie. Is it all in one, like, or all the scenes that were shown in the trailer in one room?
Well, they show a little bit of the plane, but like the whole thing is like he can't open the cockpit door to let them in. He's barricaded himself into the cockpit. The pilot's injured. His love interest is out there with the passengers. There's a point where he says they don't have guns, they don't have knives. If you all work together, you can take them out. It's a bunch of clips. Like, he's in the cockpit, he's on the phone, communicating with the would-be hijackers.
Yeah.
And so you see like the little security camera view of the aisleway and the cockpit, and that's really, from the looks of things, that seems where 98% of this movie is going to take place.
Yeah, it really does.
So, what this sounds to me like is this is something that would better be served as a one-man play rather than a movie. If it takes place in one location and has a very limited cast, I would like to see this on the stage, on the theater.
Well, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is a man who's done his fair share of theater. I could see possibly this being adapted to the stage, but I feel like that'd be I think it'd be harder to do like this exact story on stage, because like you need the exterior shots and contextualization of the plane. But
I think, I don't know, the way you've described it to me, I was just like, immediately, I was like, black stage, like 3 chairs, like a cockpit sort of bare set, maybe a projector to show the camera screen of the rest of the plane, where he can look at the footage or the security camera view, and it's shown on the projector to the audience, and it's like a whole thing.
No, and it is a separate spotlight. And then let your mind imagine the rest.
Remember his TV show that he made for a while? I watched one episode of.
I do not.
Let me look up the not Joseph Godron TV show. What the fuck is the name of it? Oh, Hit Record. Hit Record on TV. That was from 2014 to 2015. It was like a weird variety show type of thing that he was the host of. Yeah. So it was like a bunch of assorted clips. So he's a very like arty kind of presentation focused sort of dude. So that just lends it more to the idea of me like this should be on Broadway.
Well, I feel like when you're a child actor, as he was, and you do a lot of traditional acting as a child, you want to like experiment more as an adult because you've made your nut as a toddler.
See Daniel Radcliffe.
Yeah.
And Swiss Army Man.
Yep.
Really going out there.
Maybe Rupert Grint? I don't know what he's doing.
I think he's just happily living off of the residuals for the Harry Potter movies.
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, Freeform has that Harry Potter weekend, and he's like, well, there's my salary.
All right, that's another $200,000 from me. Thank you very much. Well, I guess the big trailer we need to talk about today is the trailer for Bill and Ted Face the Music.
That's right. Yeah. That I think is the biggest one. So I haven't really watched the other Bill and Ted's. I've seen bits of it. I know it's about going back in time and talking to like historical figures, like I think Bach might be one of them. And maybe some scientists.
Yeah, it's a stoner comedy adventure sort of dealio. I have not seen either Bill and Ted movies. My experience with Bill and Ted is the stage show at Universal Studios Orlando during Halloween Horror Nights. They do a pop culture satire show with the Bill and Ted property. And that's always really good. I don't know if the movies are of similar quality or not.
I watched not Excellent Adventure. It was Bogus Journey, which was the second one. I don't know. My family has this fucking thing where we don't own the first of any series of movie. We have the second Bill and Ted movie. We have Star Wars 3. We have fucking Star Trek the movie too. I mean Into Darkness, that's what I mean.
Oh, okay.
Shrek 4.
Yes. Like no, actually we have Shrek on tape. We have Shrek on VHS.
Ooh. That's a
We have
relic.
Ice Age on VHS.
That's a relic, dude.
Well,
That belongs in
I
Ice
own-
Age.
I own Batman Beyond on every form of media that's ever been released. Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker on every form of media it's ever been released on. I have the VHS, DVD, and Blu-ray.
It's just worth
Two versions of the Blu-ray, actually.
Oh my god.
Okay,
And streaming,
so
technically.
I
Yes.
I have to rant about my family's VHS collection.
Go ahead.
Because it is volumetric, I guess is the way to put it, in that it fills up like tubs and bookshelves and interstitial spaces everywhere in the house. There are ones that appeal to the family, like Caddyshack and the aforementioned Shrek family films, and then there's like old talkies from the 50s, like from before the 50s. Like shit, like every Easter we watch fucking like Easter Parade. That's like our tradition. That's my dad's tradition. We have like the Hugh Jackman Oklahoma. We have Ben-Hur.
Oh
We
my
have
god.
fucking Lawrence of Arabia on tape.
Oh my! That fit on one tape?
No,
Okay.
I think it's a box set.
It's like
And just
Titanic and The Godfather. When they come on 2 VHS tapes, you know it's for real.
Yeah, I love you, Dad. But like, if I come in on one more Saturday and the tub is open and you're sitting on the couch, just fucking leaning forward, looking at some movie that I've never heard of, in between cleaning the bathroom and tending the garden, I'll still hug you because I love you.
With
know
show
shit's
tunes
fucking
playing
bad.
in the background.
You know shit's about to get real when the tub opens in the Hoskins household.
It's either the tub of VHSs or the tub of Legos when we were a kid. Like, it was a great day in the Hoskins household.
You
when
hear that Pantogen burp.
Yep. You hear the burp, the blanket comes out, and you invert the entire fucking Rubbermaid tub onto a blanket, and you just have the whole day to just fuck around with Legos. It was the best.
Yeah. This movie, like, I don't know. I feel like the Bill and Ted stuff worked in the 90s, and we're in this era of, like, 90s is now the retro chic because it's been 30 years.
That's right.
And we're getting all these 90s properties being revived, like Bad Boys. But some of these actors are just a little too old to be pulling off these characters. And when I saw Keanu looks largely the same. But when I saw who's the other guy? Alex Winter, I was like, oh man, you got some major Billy Zabka face going on here where you have seen your better days. You were a little too old to be playing this role.
Isn't that like the plot of this movie, though? Like,
Not really.
It makes sense.
I mean, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like they're just doing Bill and Ted stuff. Like, they didn't really have any jokes about how they're older or anything. It's just the same sort of like, we got to write this song. And like, instead of going to the past, I guess the gimmick for this is they're going to the future.
I thought because that seemed like the setup to me was that they were told that they would save the world with the song, and now they're old and washed up, which to me makes sense. Like, I feel like that's how a lot of 90s movies are gonna be rebooted, because a big thematic element in a lot of 90s pop culture was like losers, like being a loser or like a washout.
A lovable loser.
Yeah.
It's an important distinction.
So the natural carry forward of that is, instead of a person who like didn't have, who's kind of a loser in the prime of their life, now you have people who were maybe like heroes in the prime of their life, and now they're losers. So we'll see there, but it's in the title too. Bill and Ted Face the Music, where they're like, "Oh, you're not getting any younger, kids."
But like, if they go to the future, they meet themselves in the future. So are they still supposed to be like younger?
Yeah, like that's the
this?
thing is like, they're going to the future to the point where they've already written this song
Yeah.
to take it from them. So like, unless the payoff is that they either A, never wrote the song, or B, they're like 98 years old, then I don't really think they're really kind of like harping up how much they've aged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
So-
also missing a very important piece of this puzzle, George Carlin.
Yeah.
Oh,
'Cause he was an
Unfortunately.
iconic piece of Bill and Ted. And that can't be shoehorned in here. So
That can't be replicated.
I would love, obviously, CGI George Carlin.
Oh, no. Don't do the fucking Grand Moff Tarkin, Carrie Fisher
If
splicing.
they lean into it. And you're just like a bad, like, 3D render. Like T-posing.
I feel like that's
And
disrespectful.
no one mentions
you know what
it.
I hate about society?
I actually, in Austin Powers,
Something
like
society.
that would be a funny Austin Powers gimmick where it's like, but Austin, he's not in the movie. We haven't hired him. He's retired. Well, that's all right, baby. We'll just CGI him in, and you just, and they just whichever character they want to fucking pull in.
You know what? I'll love in like maybe 40 years when they reboot the Mike Myers movies and Mike Myers is dead. And then they have to CG Dr. Evil and Austin Powers and Fat Bastard.
I don't
can only
know
hope.
that you could reboot Austin Powers. I don't think it would end well for anyone. Unless
Doesn't
it was like you could do Austin Powers 4. I'm not saying don't do Austin Powers 4, Mike Myers, please.
I mean, yeah, we talked about this when we reviewed Goldmember, and that, like, while there's really nothing particularly inflammatory about the Austin Powers movies, I don't think they'd be particularly well received in today's climate.
Yeah.
And we kind of saw that with The Love Guru in 2011. It was not executed nearly as well, but it was a very
Yeah.
similar style of comedy, and it did not do well.
Yeah.
Love Guru is bad. Yikes.
So I don't know.
But yeah, that's Bill and Ted. We're running a little long here, so unless you have any like major trailers you want to talk about now, I think we can.
Oh
No,
shit,
let's
we're in.
continue.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So box office, once again, The Wretched hanging on top. The box office doubled this past week, BT dubs. So with $207,000, up 18%, and in 24 more theaters is The Wretched from IFC Films. It's made a total gross of $1.1 million in 6 weeks. Jesus. As the number one movie for most of that run, too.
And I'm wondering what theaters are open. I wonder if these are like drive-ins, because I haven't heard of like AMC being open anywhere.
No,
I wonder if
we don't know that AMC's gonna be open anywhere. But
Yeah.
yeah, there are drive-ins and independently owned theaters. Yeah, places like that. Becky, the Kevin James neo-Nazi
yeah.
Home Alone in the
That's
woods.
right.
Home Alone Cabin in the Woods crossover with Kevin James as a
Fuck.
neo-Nazi.
That's what we should have watched this week. We should try to find that on streaming.
Yeah.
I feel like that's gonna be the best
It's
comedy of the
Redbox.
year.
It's a Redbox
Oh
exclusive.
yeah, Redbox exclusive.
So
For all the
here's my
crackheads and methods.
here's my dilemma with Becky. So like normally a movie like Becky or The Fanatic is something that I would want us to watch when we all coalesce. But I also really want to watch together Big Shark, Tommy Wiseau's movie.
Yeah. Apparently, Tommy Wiseau tried doing like a sitcom.
Yes, I've heard of that, and it is
Bad in
evidently
the bad way.
is evidently far worse than any of his other stuff, from what I have heard.
Oof.
It was on Hulu, I think. I don't know if it's still on Hulu, but there were many criticisms about not just the quality, but the content. So Becky opened in second with $205,000 in 45 theaters. $4,500 per theater take. That is the most of anywhere else. So Becky is Really kicking ass here. Max Winslow in the House of Secrets up 189.6% from last week, making a whopping $1,231 in 5 theaters.
That's not enough for the month, kids.
Strike,
Oh God.
the Mole movie, in 4th, down from 3rd, down 43.7%. Sex in the Future, a movie. Well, I'll just read you the description. When misfits Barry and Evan designed their ideal woman as a robot, they realized a fortune could be made if they had the money to mass produce their prototype. A wealthy prince soon finds out about their invention, and the three hatch a plan to rule the world and change sex in the future if life were that simple. So basically, you take the premise of weird science and then you just do nothing redeeming about it. And of course, this movie has a 1.8 out of 10 on IMDb.
Oof.
And whenever we find something that low, it just automatically has to be our spotlight film. There's no way around it. And we found it. It has 7 reviews in more or less the correct proportions for it to be our spotlight film. So here it is, Sex in the Future. And I'll lead off here with Adam from Distant Land, not A Distant Land, but Adam from Distant Land. His review of Sex in the Future, 10 out of 10. I didn't expect the laugh, but June 6, 2020. Movie starts with Orientalist point of view, but somehow it makes you want to continue watching. Acting is better than the story itself. Besides, the topic of interaction between humans and artificial intelligent robots is quite novel in 2020. Is it? I feel like that's a concept that's been done to death.
Yeah.
There are many philosophical debate topics in this movie. 1 out of 4 found it helpful.
Oh my God.
Wow.
I can only imagine what philosophical debates are in this movie.
I was struck by the first sentence of Orientalist point of view.
Orientalist.
Kurt, your second one is gonna be Randy Vergusen's review, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank God.
Of course, I saw it. Don't worry.
Well,
Although shout out to the other 10 out of 10 review. There are only 3.
Yeah.
One of them is way to go, Ethan.
Ethan.
Hey.
Well,
Lots of spelling.
Paul Coulson says, "Don't waste your time on this one," with a 2 out of 10 review. Well, needless to say that there weren't much of any expectations for this 2020 movie titled Sex and the Future, from directors Luis Carlos Hueck and Ethan Z. Kaplan. That's an awesome middle name. ZVI? Z?
Yeah.
I mean, just look at the atrocious rating the movie has managed to land here on IMDb. But still, it was a movie that I hadn't seen before, and it was listed as a comedy, so I took the time to sit down and watch it. But as it turned out, after 37 minutes of pure boredom and pointlessness, I shouldn't even have bothered with it in the first place. This movie was boring, unfathomably boring and pointless. It wasn't because it was a bad, low-budget movie. It was just horribly devoid of anything worthwhile watching in terms of an interesting storyline or characters. The movie does have a sense of something that should have been made in the early 1990s or so to it. And maybe the movie belonged in to that particular era, but it was not feeling like a brand new movie that was made in 2020. My rating of Sex in the Future is a mere 2 out of 10 stars, mostly because it did seem to have a proper production value to it at least. 9 out of 11 found that helpful, so...
Very insightful.
Yeah. Nifty. Then I got one from Ops52535. Sex in the Future 2020. 3 out of 10. It's like the teen fantasy flicks from the 80s.
Weird science, yeah.
But at amateur level for sure. Because this feels like a blimp of a final exam for the local film and acting academy on a block somewhere in LA, USA. It's a comedy sci-fi drama film about, I guess, every male, or to some degree female, dream of making a functionable sex doll robot. In the case here, it's 2 teenagers, boys, 1 tech nerd, and 1 aspiring actor in Casanova. The nerd has the idea, and the other makes plans for the development. Meanwhile, in Mahatmasan, somewhere in the Middle East, the royal family, with children scaling from 1 to 10 on the beauty scale, have a meeting. In the end, the ugly duckling, who wants to be an actor, but who's denied that due to his ugly appearances, anesthetizes the family, grabs a suitcase of money, grabs his private secretary, and sets off to L.A. Not sets off. To become an actor. The destiny of the story is that he comes to the same art school as the aforementioned teenager, and that's the start of the conglomerative story of making the sex doll robot, all one word. Middle Eastern men, known for its sex drive and harems, takes the real spin of the ground, and with buckets of money, the dream comes through. But remember, this is a very amateuristically made flick. The sound and film quality are near 0 on a scale of 10. The acting are extremely lame with 2 or 3 exceptions, and the story and plot are hideous and oblivious in its appearance. The editing and direction do have a 1920s silent era management. It's saved by a hilariousness fantasy of the idea, and score do function and gives the film some guts. I hung on till the bitter end, mostly because of the idea. I've got millions of critical comments on my notepad, but I'll not mention them because I'm nothing more than a layman myself. Just say that it's not for the what the fuck is this word? The Feinschmaker?
The Feinschmaker?
The Feinschmaker.
Mentok. The Feinschmaker.
The Feinschmaker.
The Feinschmaker of silver screen haute couture.
All right, it's a German word,
couture.
to the surprise of no one. It means gourmet or connoisseur.
Okay. Finely made. I guess the fine making.
It was misspelled, though.
Okay. Good to know that he spelled a word in a different language for an English review. Great. It's not for the Feinschmecker of silver screen haute couture. It's a very small recommend, especially for the young YouTubers around the world. It has a few laughs and hilarious funny moments. A weak 3 from the grumpy old man. 30 out of 37 found this helpful.
He said, I hung on to the bitter end there, and I certainly hung on to the bitter end of that fucking Iliad review there.
Holy shit. Yeah.
Fucking Homer blushed at the length of that.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense that this guy's German, because some of these words are weird. Like, sex doll robot is all one word. I like to imagine that the sex doll robot.
The sex doll robot is ready for production.
I mean, I'm sure he was a fixture on the #1 show in Germany. Who are you to accuse me?
Yeah. I think this is the most helpful review on this for this movie. Like 30 out of 37.
Yeah, that's a high hit rate.
Good fucking boy.
All right.
Now we get to the fucking meat of this stuff.
Randy Vergusen reviewed Sex in the Future. He had nice things to say. 10 out of 10. This movie is amazing. Warning, spoilers. There's so many messages and reflection outward and onwards. End of sentence. Then between scenes, they even give you some time to let it sink in. And yes, it's true. We've had similar movies with the dolls, wink, and has a big presence, the ellipses, basically just like anything else we've ever seen in any movie, comma, any ideas how many westerns they made? 2 dots, not a full ellipses, 2 dots. Most, comma, if not all of them, had horses in the movie. So you see that it's basically another perspective, which is opposite or exactly the same, but different in every conceivable way, beyond what you could think of, parentheses XD. So yeah, it's a really good movie. 2 up arrows. I know not everything I write makes sense, not sense, sense, comma, but why should it? Please make more movies. 2 up arrows. But there's a line break. I feel that I have to point out that it's a new paragraph where it just says, please make more movies, and there are 2 more up arrows.
This is his first review, by the way.
Yeah.
And how helpful was it?
2 out of 21 seemed to take something away from that.
Oh, nope. Wow.
He's been an IMDb member for 4 months.
Good job.
Randy Vergusen.
Took him 4 months to write that review, kids.
Yes.
Well, Benny Amin Radu says, low budget all the way. 1 out of 10. It's short but sweet. They use real women to impersonate robots. That alone makes the movie bad. Unless you have nothing. I mean, nothing to do with your life. I would still not recommend this. 8 out of 10 found that helpful. It seems like the low ratings are getting really helpful.
Well, no shit. If the movie's bad,
So, like, guys, don't even waste your time. Okay,
Jake, I have
thanks
to-
for helping me.
This is a 1.8 out of 10. I'm pretty sure Double Down was at least a 3.
Yeah, you have to really, really mess up to get that low on IMDb.
Double Down was a 4.5.
Bite your tongue. What? I want to look at the reviews on Double Down.
That's a rabbit hole. Maybe we can do
Meanwhile-
that as like a YouTube extra. We just read IMDb user reviews of Double Down.
I'd be down with that. While Jake's looking at that, I'll read Saptesh786's review. 3 out of 10. Average sex comedy except Allure, which I think is someone's name, Allur. Jake just handed us the first fucking review of this shit for Double Down. Only a god could create this work of art. 1 out of 10.
The feature review on Double Down, I hate to hijack this, but I just have to write this. Sometimes you don't watch a film, rather you survive it. And that was exactly how I felt watching Double Down.
Well, didn't we watch Fateful Findings first?
Yes, and I was angry. I remember punching the ground of the honors house at AU, cursing Jake's name for making me watch this. It was a painful experience.
Success.
Yes. All right. Let me read you off this one. All right. So only half a movie is comedy. Other half is just filling the up gap anyhow. Starting is hopefully, and then half a hour is good sex comedy. We can see like Allure Country and Its Ruler and Family, but later it doesn't last comedy. It only goes anyhow to ending without thrill, comedy, or suspense. Leading actor as well, and others are average. It could have been a better comedy on such topic. 2 out of 3 found this helpful.
All right. Well, that's the number 5 movie in America. It made a whole $745 in 2 theaters, which means like 30 people per theater saw it.
I want to go to Ebert in the 90s and be like, all right, it's 2020. The top 5 list of movies in the country starts with Sex in the Future at a 1.8 out of 10 rating, making $700 in a week. It's up to you, Ebert. You have to figure out what the fuck happened.
The Fox Hunter opened in 6th with $602 in one theater. That's another Indican Pictures movie. So I assume that those two were shown in like a double feature somewhere. Circles down to 7th from 4th, 58% drop, $365. The Trip to Greece down to 8, but up 34% and in 4 theaters. $87 per theater take average. 8 people per theater.
Wow.
32 people.
Total
saw that
gross
movie.
is $2,300. Oh,
That's
rough.
a big oofer right there. And How to Build a Girl, which somehow has made $69,000, rounds out the not even the top 10. We still only have 9 movies in cinemas right now. $207, which is a 58% increase. $51 per theater. Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. It's the PS5. It's coming. It looks like a Wi-Fi router. And it has an optional toast slot.
yeah, that it does. And
It's also fucking huge.
People are already making.
So this is our feature. We're talking about the PS5 because EA3 didn't happen. So everyone's just going to have their directs.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about the large-ass console that is the PS5.
Yeah. But we do have some other things to clean up first before we talk about the PS5, which we will talk about in depth, as well as, sort of speculations and such like that, as we are wont to do in this kind of things. But I have a game review, and there are several other, actually some pretty big stories. I think we should kick off with perhaps the biggest one, which is Warner Brothers gaming division is likely to be sold. AT&T who now owns Warner Brothers, has decided that maybe we don't want to finance the video game division. So they are shopping around currently. Warner Brothers Interactive, makers of the Batman Arkham series as well as Mortal Kombat and other large titles. EA, Take-Two, and Activision are reportedly interested. God, please don't let EA get them.
Yeah.
Not that Activision and Take-Two are much better, but please.
EA Mortal Kombat. Oh,
each character
fun.
is like $9.99. You start with one character. You
Oh
start
my
with Scorpion.
Didn't the DLC like already take, even though it was free to obtain, like to get it, it was obscenely long.
Yeah.
Essentially.
I mean, that's the same thing they did with Street Fighter V. It's like, oh yeah, you don't have to pay any money. You can pay it all. You can get your characters with fight money, and then there's like enough fight money in the game that you can reasonably attain to get one DLC character. And then it's just a fucking monotonous grind in ranked matches, and this with a game with terrible netcode.
Hooray!
But yeah, estimates are ranging that the deal could reach $4 billion, according to CNBC. So this would be probably the biggest acquisition of a studio since, I don't know, maybe since Microsoft bought Rare back in 2000.
Yeah.
And look how well that turned out. Banjo and Kazooie. It's a car game now.
Not even just that. Like, they were fucking forced to make shovelware shit for the Kinect. They were locked in the dungeon to make Kinectimals.
Oh, God.
Rare went down the shithole when that happened.
Yeah. You can currently buy 1,000 video games for $5, with all proceeds going to support Black Lives Matter. It's an incredible charity bundle that has already raised over $3.5 million.
Wow.
There's a decent chance you have heard of itch.io. It's a website used to host and sell indie video games. But you've most likely heard of some of the classic video games available on the platform, games like Celeste, Nights in the Woods, and Overland. Right now, an attempt to raise money for the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund and Community Bail Fund, which is not Black Lives Matter, so I feel like that title is misleading. Itch.io is running a bundle unlike anything that's ever been seen before, and probably, since. Like, I don't think we're going to see something like this again. They are offering over 1,000 video games worth around a minimum of $7,000 for donations of $5.
Wow.
Obviously, I don't have time to read off every game that's on here. Most of them are games that you probably have never heard of and aren't exactly big time games. I mean, I'm sure some of them are fun.
Itch.io is basically the weird part of YouTube, but if it was a game platform.
Yeah. So there's the bundle for racial justice and equality. It ends in 3 days, so act fast. Features Overland, Night in the Woods, Skyrogue, Celeste, Short Hike, Linea's Inception, Odd Realm. I'm just going through ones that I kind of recognize here. There's not much outside the top row that I recognize. But these are all real games that people, worked and put time on. available for $5, then there's 1,000 of them. I can't speak to the quality of these games and how many of them you will play, but honestly, like, my metric for games is like I want to get at least as many hours of gameplay out of it and enjoyment as I did dollars I spent into it.
Right. It is literally half a cent per game.
Yeah. So.
And if you think $1 an hour, right? So that means, let's see, $1 divided by 60.
So 60 divided by 200 would be how much money per hour.
Right.
Which is.
And that is.
Like
a third of an hour. So if you get 20 minutes out of a game, you've already paid for it.
Yeah. The whole, like, pretty much the whole. Yeah. If you spend 5 cumulative hours playing any of these games, you've already paid for the bundle, essentially. You've gotten your money's worth.
Yeah. One of those hours can just be browsing the games.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. 5 of those hours can be fucking Celeste. Yeah. Like, Jesus.
I think Celeste is a game that you can easily dump like 20 some odd hours into.
Yeah.
This is what we call a lost leader.
Yeah. And,
if there was one.
And, I'm glad to see it's doing well. 1,000 games from 840 creators. They estimate $5,700 in value, which is perhaps a little misleading because while these games might sell for that price, does it have value if no one buys it?
Yeah.
It does
is
now.
The question. And all proceeds, once again, are donated. $5 minimum donation. You can donate more if you would like, but if you put forth $5, you get 1,000 indie games that you will play maybe 20 of, but it's going to a good cause. So
yeah,
yep,
sure.
Literally a Chinese bootleg cartridge level of
I was gonna say it really reminds me of like the 99 and 1.
87,000 games in one.
And
8-bit game.
They're all just fucking NES games with different titles.
It's like you ever seen those Chinese bootleg USB drives where it's like they say how like 10 terabytes of storage, but it's like 2 megs and it just deletes files as you put them in.
Linus Tech Tips actually did a video on those and how they work. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah. So that, except not actually a scam.
Yeah, and like I go donate to this. It's a good cause, even if you don't think that this is that like the current issues right now are, or if you think they're like overblown or you're on the other side of it. I mean, like the NAACP Legal Defense Fund is a good cause. Like, you should have it in your heart to help people who might need legal help, because we all know what it's like being on the wrong side of the law. It's a very scary thing. Legal fees are very expensive. Not a lot of people can afford them. So, it's just, and it's $5. You're getting something out of it too. It's not like you're just making a donation out of the goodness of your heart.
I think that's the real like catch right here is that you're getting something out of donating to a really good cause, and that should be enough.
Yeah, and again, I just saw this headline for other stuff, or at least an opinion thing on Reddit here. On the other side of the spectrum, you could also buy $71 in Valorant for 5 skins. Hooray!
Jesus Christ. Yeah, for roughly the price of the Horse Armor DLC in Oblivion, you can get 1,000 games.
We can't state enough how much value this is.
That's amazing. For the same value of a footlong at Subway, you can get 1,000 games.
Fucking right. You can get. It's not. People spend more on a pack of cigarettes in New York.
Yes.
Literally 2 of these.
Yes.
And they can go through them in less than a week.
Yeah. Some people a day.
In less than 2 packs of Magic cards, you get 1,000 games.
One pack of Double Masters.
One in some case.
everyone's taking pot shots at the designs of the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, and among the leaders in this regard is KFC Gaming, who have revealed their console to rival them all. It is literally a chicken bucket with a disk drive. It's a freedom model. Obviously, this is not a real thing that's happening, but it's
KFC always on that viral marketing shit.
yeah. And there's a power button. And it projects out. It has some heating coils, so it can make you some fried chicken while you game. True 4K, 120 FPS.
You can play the KFC dating sim on it.
Dude, somebody spent too much time making this. That's amazing.
Like, I mean, really, you're just like, you're sitting at home, coronavirus, and you're just like, yeah, no, can you commission me to make a fucking, it's a tapered cylinder and blender with a couple fucking lighting effects on it.
KF console. I love it.
Like, it's fantastic.
Power your hunger.
Yeah.
November 12th, 2020.
Seattle has been ranked as the #1 top city for video games in the U.S., video gaming in the U.S., which makes a lot of sense. It rains there a lot. Also, there is a huge, thriving retro gaming scene in Seattle. It's probably, I would assume it's the #1 city for that because you have all the California transplants moving there now because it's impossible to live in California because it's so goddamn expensive. And they have all this disposable income because a lot of them are software developers and shit like that, so they have the hobby. The report published by the finance site Wallet Hub compared the 100 largest cities across 20 key indicators of gamer friendliness, from average internet speed to video game stores per capita. Seattle has the highest overall score and also ranked #1 for most video game job openings per capita, because there are a lot of studios based out of Seattle. The top ranking for Seattle comes as the coronavirus pandemic forces more people to stay inside this year, boosting popularity of gaming. As a result, the gaming industry is projected to bring in a staggering $159 billion with a B dollars this year. According to the Pew Research Center, 72% of male Americans aged 18 to 29 play video games often or sometimes, as do 49% of female Americans in the same age range. Oh, that number's gone up in recent years. Although that can be deceiving, because I remember there was a report published a few years ago that's like, that said something like 60% of all gamers are female, and like they considered mobile gaming in that sphere. So like all the moms playing Candy Crush brought up that average, and I'm like, that's not really a good statistic.
Yeah, it's like, yes, true, but
yes, but also
useful?
no.
Is it useful for the culture, I guess, of what a lot of people consider gamers? It definitely appeals to marketers and people who make video games when you're like, okay, that's a demographic I can make a game for. Understandable. It's practical in that sense, but
yeah, I mean, like
for what the John Q public considers
in that space, like I don't think AAA, to use that statistic, the guide AAA development to market their games more towards females, I think would be a mistake because of the way that's skewed. But 49%, 72%, that's still a pretty big discrepancy, but it's gotten smaller than it's been in recent years. Also, the popularity of pro gaming and esports is growing into a viable career choice for those with the best mechanical skills. In fact, professional esports players were projected to have more total viewers than all professional sports leagues except the NFL by next year. Which, yeah, makes sense. Not everyone follows every sport. I know I don't really watch basketball. And hockey is not on TV anywhere, much to my chagrin. I do enjoy me some hockey, but I can only really watch the playoffs because those are the only games they put on network television. And I'm not paying extra for the MSG channel. Fuck you, James Dolan. holding my Rangers hostage.
MSG might not be bad for your health, but that channel does give me a headache.
Yeah, it sucks because I want to watch the Rangers. I can't. All right, so I will give my God of War 3 review quickly here before we move into the PS5. So I finally played God of War 3. I picked up the God of War trilogy. I started collecting, I guess you could say, for the PS3 shortly after I graduated college. I found a lot of like games that had, games I missed when I was in high school because I didn't have the money to afford them, and they're all really cheap now. It's a good time to like get in and start buying games for the PS3 because right now their value is at their lowest. It's not old enough to be charmingly retro, but it's a couple generations behind at this point. So like they had collections of a lot of their games. I picked up the Uncharted collection and God of War and Infamous and all that stuff. And I played God of War. God of War was one of the first games we streamed. And we did that, and I played God of War 2, and I enjoyed those games quite a lot. And the way the stories were structured, I was really hyped coming out of God of War 2 to play God of War 3 because like they took the climax of God of War 2 and like pushed it off a game. Like you were riding high, and like the start of God of War 3 is a continuation of the climax of God of War 2. But unfortunately, they kind of muck up the pacing a little bit, and it was out of necessity because you can't have a full game of just the Titans attacking Mount Olympus. So, the plan doesn't quite go as Kratos and the Titans would have hoped, and Gaia kind of turns her back on Kratos, and Kratos has to, go through more shit to kill Zeus. The whole objective, as it was in God of War 2, is to kill Zeus to get your revenge after he stripped you of your status of God of War, which you acquired at the end of God of War 1, and he murdered you. Kratos, literally a man too angry to die, climbed his way out of Hades.
Classic.
Twice. You do it again in this game. You actually kill Hades in this game. That was one of the harder boss fights. Like, this game it's more of the God of War formula, which I enjoy, and when it's a formula, it's the hack and slash sort of formula, but it's done very well in God of War. I think everyone else kind of plays catch up to what God of War did in that genre. Games like Dante's Inferno and Hyrule Warriors is really more based on Dynasty Warriors, but like they really innovate. Santa Monica Studios really innovated in this genre quite a lot, and I really like Greek mythology and mythology in general. So the stories were always interesting to me, and Kratos continues to be one of the least likable protagonists in the history of video games. But he does show humanity. Like the ending of this game is kind of like his journey to regain some semblance of humanity and not just be a giant prick. Like he's confronted with all the terrible things he's done in his quest for vengeance. And his last deed in the game is fairly noble. So to recap, in God of War 1, you are tasked to kill Ares. And to do so, you need to acquire Pandora's box, because that has the power to kill a god. And in doing so, you open Pandora's box, which releases all the nasty stuff that's in Pandora's box, but as in the myth, also hope, which is the key thing in this game. As Pandora herself says, hope is what gives us strength. Hope is why we are here. And that is, as it turns out, the real power to kill a god is hope. But all the nasty things that were released from Pandora's box infected the gods with, anger and fear and jealousy and all those negative emotions that were stuffed in Pandora's box. So the gods became very fanatical and tyrannical and needed to die, I guess. It was mostly personally motivated revenge for Kratos, as is his motivation in much of the original God of War trilogy, which doesn't make him the most likable protagonist because it's not a just cause, and he does kill really indiscriminately. There are a lot of innocent people that he kills in his journey. But you work your way through this you climb up the chain of the Olympus, because the Flame of Olympus is where supposedly has the power to kill the god, but it just is like protecting Pandora's box. And so you kill Poseidon's the first god you kill, and you kill Apollo, you kill Hermes, you kill Hades, you kill Hercules, you kill Hera, you fuck Aphrodite. You don't kill her. You kill Hephaestus, even though Hephaestus was he helped you a lot, and like he shows some remorse for killing Hephaestus, but that was kind of in self-defense. I don't know why. Still unclear on why Hephaestus attacks Kratos in this game. And then eventually you do kill Zeus. And at the end of the game, spoilers for a 10-year-old game, Athena demands the power. You killed Athena in God of War 2 on accident. And she demands the power that was in the box. And Kratos informs her that the box was empty, which was true. But he then realized, he connects the dots, that hope was the power that was in the box. And Athena wants the hope to recraft the world, which is in ruins, because you've killed all these gods that control like the elements and all that stuff. To reform the world in her vision. And Kratos realizes that she too has been corrupted by the evils of Pandora's box. And rather than give her hope, he stabs himself with the blade of Olympus to release hope to the world and allow it to recover. But to lead in, if you're wondering how there's a God of War 4, Kratos is, again, too angry to die. He's been cursed with immortality. So he can't... It's very difficult to kill him, and even by his own hand. So after the credits roll, you see the blade of the Olympus lying there and a blood trail leading off the cliff. So he somehow finds its way to Midgard for God of War 4. That's the story. The story was good and compelling. The gameplay, as always in God of War, very tight. My biggest issue with the game is that when you get to the last couple sections, namely the Garden of Olympus and the Labyrinth, the difficulty spike is huge. And while I don't mind difficult combat scenarios, because I feel with practice you can overcome those, what I dislike is very difficult platforming challenges, which there were many of in the latter stages of the game. The most notorious of them for me is when you jump down to go back to the underworld. You follow the chain of Olympus all the way back down to the judges of the underworld. It's a flight section where you have to avoid all these obstacles. And at a certain point, you pick up so much speed that it is nearly impossible to even see where you need to position yourself to not hit obstacles. And the collision mechanics are such that if you hit one obstacle, no matter what happens, you're going to hit like 2 or 3 more. And they each take off a whole lot of health. And I didn't help myself because I didn't find enough Gorgon's Eyes to increase my health meter. So I played
Gorgon's Eyes.
I played the game on normal, but since I had like the same starting health value for most of the game, effectively that's like up the difficulty to hard, essentially.
So what could you like upgrade? Your probably your damage and
so
stamina?
There's 3 different meters. You have there's a new meter in this game. You have health, magic, and stamina, which controls your ability to use your items. Like the bow of Apollo and the head of Heliod and Hermes' sandals, such like that. And to get them, there's 3 items that are scattered about in chests. There's Phoenix Feathers, which increase your magic, Gorgon's Eyes, which increase your health, and Minotaur Horns, which increase your stamina. So you have to find these, and they're not always like obviously out in the open. Okay. So you have to do. I didn't know if it was
like some games make you choose, like
no,
you upgrade your upgrade your stats, and then you can choose
Where
between
you
one of
can
the three.
choose is the way experience is granted in this game is you collect red orbs, and there are chests with red orbs, and you get red orbs for killing enemies, and you can use your red orbs to selectively upgrade your different primary weapons, of which there are 4 in this game. There are the Blades of Exile, the Claws of Hades, the Nemean Cestus, and the Nemesis Whip. There's probably enough red orbs to max out all of them, but I only found enough to max out 3, which is fine because the Blades of Exile are poopy. But overall, it's a great game. I highly recommend the original God of War trilogy. I feel like there are a lot of people who don't really even know that there were 5 God of War games before the most recent one that existed. And I feel like you do yourself a disservice if you don't play them. So there's a remastered trilogy on the PS4, so go play that if you enjoyed the newest God of War. I haven't played the newest God of War, so I don't know how similar or different it is. But
Is it not for the PC, or is it?
You can emulate them all on the PC now because RC PS3 has gotten to the point where it's actually pretty good. And PCS X2 is solid. I did encounter. We played it on PCS X2 when we did the stream, and I did encounter a couple graphical hiccups, but overall it was pretty good. So it's a very playable experience. You can play it on PC through emulation. Obviously, to make it legal, please buy a copy of the trilogy to support the developers.
That's why I was kind of like asking, just in case they.
If you choose to go that route, but yeah, I can't recommend that whole trilogy really enough. It's a rewarding combat system. It can be a little tricky to master, especially when they add in like the blocking mechanics with the golden fleece and counterattacking. But really interesting stories, fantastic graphics. Santa Monica Studios always pushed the platform to its limits. God of War 2 for a PS2 title looks amazing, and God of War 3 for a slightly later PS3 title, kind of like mid-cycle though. PS3 came out in 06, this was 2010. Looks incredible. Like the Kratos's model, even though the game is at 720p, like looked incredible. Like I was very impressed, even by today's standards, how good that looked. So yeah, can definitely recommend. And now we will talk about more Sony stuff, and I'm sure we will have a sequel to 2018's God of War coming out for the PS5. That was not confirmed at this event, but many other things were. So we will talk
especially
about them
with the
now.
success of God of War 4. They're definitely going to come out with a sequel. But yeah, so we got a lot of sequels for the PS5 that were announced, and of course we got to see the console for real now. And I think there was a lot of like speculation of what it was going to look like, and I did not expect what it looks like.
No, it is certainly a drastic departure from the design language of the PlayStation property over like the 4 generations that it's existed.
I'm sort of okay with. I mean, I was never a PlayStation person. I never had one. I only played on my like friends. But I don't mind the design change. Because I think it looks very futuristic. I gotta say that. And it doesn't look like.
I know
it doesn't feel like it's like too like gaudy futuristic. Like some people try to like make it.
I know people don't like boxy consoles, but I prefer boxy consoles because I have a lot of consoles and I need to stack them. Yeah. And
it's ergonomic.
Going back to the PS3 where they had the bevel, you could not have that anywhere else but the top of the stack. The PS4 was a better design because the accents were on the sides, so you could stack it just fine. This, I mean, you can lay it on your. I don't even know. I don't think you can even lay it on your side. I think it has to be vertical because unless you get the no disc model, because the disc drive makes it not level on the bottom, and there's clear curvature on the on the top panel. So like I don't even think you can put this on its side. I think it has to be vertically mounted.
No, you can put it on its side. So I think the thing is it comes with a stand. There's a black circle on the bottom.
Yeah, I mean
and
that's
it
what
comes
I'm
off
saying.
of that, and then it has to lay on that. Stand.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I
Side.
couldn't turn it 90 degrees and have it lie flat comfortably without it being at an angle.
No,
Jake, you're saying that there's a flat stand in addition to the upright
Oh,
stand?
no,
is
the
there?
upright stand, like that comes off. It's like this,
Right.
and then it
Perpendicular.
lays flat on the
Okay,
same
so it
stand.
also
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
it functions.
I'm
So-
pretty sure that's how it's gonna work.
for landscape
'Cause I'm
position.
pretty sure I saw a
And
picture of that.
weirdly, the disk drive in the landscape position from the images I'm seeing here is underneath the central strip of the. It's on the underside of the whatchamacallit of the console. I think it's. My current take on this is, it's trying to draw attention to the design of the console, of the aesthetics of it, without really, by just like pulling from common design trends. I compare this to the Wii and the Wii U and the
Yes.
Switch, Nintendo stuff, where they, on the one hand, they do have they're very utilitarian designs where it's just squares and boxes, put them together, they're blocks.
Okay.
But
That's kind of
even
weird
then,
looking,
they
though.
have a distinct like visual kind of style where like the Switch has the idea of the Joy-Cons and the rectangular controller that integrates the screen and the way the dock is and all the the Wii, like all the design language of the Wii just screams 2000s to
Yeah.
me, like late 2000s, early 2010s. It was very much in that slick, pristine white futuristic sort of ideal, which PS5 it's kind of trying to do that again ish, but we're past that. We're moved on.
So there will be two models, with disc and all digital. My understanding is that the disc drive will be an Ultra HD Blu-ray player, which is important to some people, myself included. And it also probably will cost more,
That's the difference.
depending upon how much that technology costs to implement. Perhaps quite a bit more. There was a Amazon listing claiming 599 euros, which people did the conversion to, which would be 748 US dollars. However, people seem to forget that oftentimes they do regional pricing, where it'll be the same pricing in all regions, just in the local currency. But there was another e-tailer that leaked a listing for the PlayStation 5 that said $699. Now, for people who say Sony would never do that, well, the PS2 dominated its generation, and then they came out with the PS3, which had a launch price of, wait for it, $699. And then they realized that was maybe a mistake, so they toned back the price and undercut the Xbox by $100 with the PS4, and the PS4 dominated its generation. So now they might be thinking once again that, well, we're the big name in town. People are going to buy it because it's PlayStation. We can afford the price. And the technology in here is ambitious. This might just be, we've read the reports that Sony has been unable to get the cost of the console under $450 to produce. So unless they want to sell it at a loss like they did on the PS3s after the first price cut, it's going to have to be fairly expensive.
Yeah,
And-
upwards of $500.
I would
Probably.
I would predict it. I would predict 550 at a minimum.
Yeah, I really think just with the sort of inflating prices of like phones and stuff like that, I feel like we're not at a point where manufacturing costs have met the increase in what hardware they're using, and I think they're not going to be able to make that price point if they sell it like sub $500.
Yeah.
$500.
And we're not immune from that in the PC space either. Like this
No.
most recent generation of NVIDIA graphics cards saw us break $1,000 for a mainline GPU for the first time ever. The 2080 Ti has an MSRP of $1,200. The 1080 Ti had an MSRP of $800, which at the time was considered to be a lot of fucking money.
Yeah.
And then NVIDIA's like, oh, we'll just charge $400 more because we can. We don't have any competition in this high-end space.
Right.
Although we still don't have the pricing, and I think the pricing has not been set yet. I think we're still, and I said this long time ago, I think we're going to be in this game of chicken. I said it would come to a head at E3, but there was no E3. We're going to be in this game of chicken where Microsoft and Sony are going to wait until as long as possible to announce the prices because they don't want to announce first. Because Sony knows this tactic well. This is how Sony sank Sega. In E3 94, Sony was on after Sega. And the edict at Sony was whatever Sega prices the Saturn at, the PlayStation is $100 less. And I could 100% see them pulling a similar stunt with Microsoft. And Microsoft ain't no dummies. I'm sure they're on the same plane there. Like, we were $100 more expensive at launch last generation, and we got our asses kicked. So we're gonna we'll wait and see what Sony says, and then we'll undercut them a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean Xbox Series X is expected to be over $500 too. So
Yeah, the Xbox. Well, the Xbox One X was like what, $499?
yeah, $499. Yeah, I just looked up an article for it. They said Xbox One X launched in 2017 with $499 as the price point, and then the Series X is supposed to blow it out of the water spec wise.
Yeah.
So don't expect it to go below that $500 mark.
I'd say that'd be the
so-
bare minimum entry point.
Yeah. So I mean, we're looking at consoles that are about $550 to $600. You know, and that's for the base edition.
Yeah.
You know, who knows? There could be ones with higher storage that, you know, could hit all the way up to $700, $800.
Yeah, and that kind of
I wouldn't be
that
surprised.
loses some of the appeal of consoles. Is that, you know, people have this perspective, wrongly, but people have this perspective that building a PC is so expensive. You know, consoles are cheaper. That's what you hear a lot. But if we're starting to see consoles cost like $600, especially now with the Ryzen 3 series out and the 10th gen Intel i3s being 4 cores, 8 threads, like, you can put together a seriously kick-ass computer for that kind of money now. So
Like, Kurt, how much would you estimate my build is at? I'm not running a top of the line. I'm running hand-me-downs.
to put together an equivalent to your build today would probably cost around let's see. You can get actually this is a good comparison because I just bought for $265 you could get the platform, the CPU, motherboard, and RAM. And that would leave you power supply and case you could probably get for another $100 or so to get a good power supply and case, and then that would be you're up to $365. So that gives you a lot of options in terms of GPUs that you can get, and 1070 Ti's are selling on eBay right now for like $200, and that is a very capable graphics card even today. at 1080p that will treat you real nice. So you add $200 to that, you're at $565, which is probably comparable in price to one of these consoles and going to be similar in performance. I mean, storage, obviously you have to factor that in there too, but you can also get better deals than what I've listed. That's just what I was able to find things to. B550 motherboards are coming out. I'm sure there are going to be some of those that are less expensive, and it's going to open you up to those nice Ryzen 3 parts. I feel that you can put together a not necessarily top of the line PC, but very capable PC for similar money to these consoles. And while these consoles may be better performance, we don't know what kind of performance these are going to have. All we have is what Sony and Microsoft have told us. And if you believe what the company tells you that the product's going to do, I'm sorry, but you're a fool. Because they said, they made a lot of promises about the PS4 and Xbox One that were not met. So I am not expecting the promises that they have made on these consoles to be met either.
Yeah.
Now, I kind of want to segue this into another aspect of this launch and of the launch of the next generation. Now we're talking about performance, and we're talking about being able to run stuff. It's worth noting that in this age of computer gaming, and I guess console gaming to a lesser extent, the power of the machines is such that you're outpace any well optimized game will fit very comfortably in the specs of a nice machine, and the graphical improvements are diminishing returns just as a factor of as we approach realism. So I want to talk briefly about launch titles, because I feel like last generation there wasn't, like, there were launch titles that were like, yeah, buy this, but there wasn't, unless except for the Switch, there wasn't one, at least for me, that said this is a fucking hype game that everyone needs to fucking buy and you need to go because it's crazy. And the Switch was, I feel like it felt like it was worthy of making a new console for, even if it wasn't just the gimmick, because they, at least the way it was marketed and the way it was set up, was it's this huge ass fucking world that's so complex and has all this stuff going into it that it's worth it to buy this new piece of machinery because it can do crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And then you compare that to something like, I know Battlefield, what's Modern Warfare right now, is going through a kind of mini controversial area or a time period right now where they're going the exact opposite way, where it's mediocre performance, but it's so badly optimized that you have like 40 gig updates for a shader.
Yeah. Diane plays Modern Warfare because one of her friends told her she should play Modern Warfare. And like she has a 640 gig hard drive in there with her SSD, and a third of that has been taken up by Modern Warfare. Like, I think her install is 220 gigabytes.
It's a disgustingly bloated piece of software. Yeah. And so my challenge is, my question is, what do these guys have to do for a launch title? Like, I mean, not even to succeed. Like, I guess, how hard do they have to work? How much of their console can they sell on the console itself? And what would they need? Like, would they need to just put out a new Modern Warfare and say, here's the new shooting game, go buy it, and people will go buy it? Or do they need to go hard with, like, fucking Mario Odyssey, like Nintendo does every time they launch a console, and they put out some crazy, like, fans go buck wild for that shit?
We have some launch lineup games that were revealed at this event. Of course, it wouldn't be a Sony event without Gran Turismo. Gran Turismo 7 is coming as a launch title. Resident Evil 8 will also be a launch window title.
That was pretty big. That was pretty big. Resident Evil 7 hit different when that came out, and people loved that game.
It went back to the roots. It went back to the roots of what Resident Evil should be. It was actually a little more like Silent Hills than Resident Evil, but that's not a bad thing necessarily. And, you know, people are excited for the next installment of that. NBA 2K21, you know, sports game is sports game.
Sports.
And
Spider-Man?
Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales which I think
that
in this current political climate is gonna be a
So
pretty
well.
big hit.
But also, we saw Spider-Verse. I mean, Miles Morales is a hot character.
Yeah, that's a character
in the
that
Marvel Universe.
That's a character that I will confess, when they first introduced Miles Morales in 2015, I was like, I'm not a big fan of mantle switching. I've talked about this on the show before. I think you do a disservice to just like, all right, here's a well-established character. We're going to put a new person in there because we're too lazy to think of a new hero. But when Spider-Verse came out, they did such a great job of telling the Miles Morales story that, that's a character that I identify with now. I feel similarly connected to as I do Peter Parker. And I think the Spider-Man game on the PS4 was such a hit, such a smash hit.
Oh, it's huge.
That, this is going to sell like hotcakes, especially now that we're in this era of, everyone's really focused on like racial representation in everything right now. And to have a, not just the black superhero, but a black and Hispanic superhero leading up one of the biggest launch titles on the PS5 here is going to be a big deal. And I'm sure eventually down the pipeline we will see a God of War 5 and other things like that. That's why the PS4 won this past generation. We talked about it a little bit, Peter, you and I, when we did our farewell to the 8th gen discussion. That this past generation of consoles just didn't have a high volume of quality titles, especially on the Xbox side. Xbox One exclusives were like non-existent.
Yeah.
And the ones that existed,
skimpy.
We got like Sunset Overdrive and Sea of Thieves and like Gears 5. And like even those, like some of those made their way onto PC eventually.
And so like Xbox couldn't hold on to them. Now, I have a wild theory, a wild speculation about it won't be this console generation because they've already locked everything in and the timing didn't work. But so Half-Life Alyx came out and kind of took the gaming world. It took the gaming world's attention for a few moments, and pulled attention. Said, "This is what VR can be. What a VR adventure can represent. Here's our next." It really was like, so a lot of games, there's the first step, right? Everyone likes to make the first step, and that was Beat Saber. That was fucking VR chat. That was whatever.
Super hot.
Yeah. Alyx represents the second step where they're saying, all right, we can kind of put a game together on this. And, I mean, it's a big whale of a fucking item, of course. But I guess my point here is, it's as you take further steps, I think if there's a company with enough courage to do it, I think the next console, instead of being an update in performance and just like the next level of whatever, another iteration, a bold console coming out next generation or even mid-generation, I don't know, would be pivoting to focus on like the power of peripherals, where it takes off less focus on strict performance and more on working with things like VR and rigs, and bringing that into making it more affordable, or like unifying the technology in some way.
Sony did experiment with PlayStation VR with the PS4, and it performed reasonably well from what I've heard. The PS5, at least on paper, the spec sheet reads as a machine that would be very VR capable of running something on the scale of Half-Life Alyx. So if Sony can, in their area, Sony is in a good position to do this because unlike all the other names in the gaming industry, Sony has been a world-leading electronics company for all of its existence.
40 years.
They, perhaps better than anyone, have the capability to figure out how to produce a quality VR headset at an affordable price, and they now will have the platform to push VR titles on. And they can, like Half-Life Alyx runs very reasonably well on like a 1060 level graphics card with a CPU that can push the frames to max out that 1060 graphics card, and like an HTC or not an HTC, an Oculus Quest style headset. Linus Tech Tips did a good video on like the difference in like experiences between like your different hardware configs for Half-Life Alyx, and they found that it ran reasonably well on a wide range of hardware. And I feel like you could push more AAA VR experiences to the mainstream, but we've talked about VR a lot on this show. The main obstacle now, Half-Life Alyx has cleared one hurdle of creating a AAA VR experience, but you have to clear the other, perhaps higher hurdle of lowering the barrier of entry, which Valve did not do with the Index.
Yeah.
No, it did not.
My vision of what it would a kind of realistic version of what I would expect. So next console generation, they come out and you call it the PlayStation Virtua or whatever, and it's a $900 console, but it comes with a VR peripherals equipped and a killer launch app it's like the Guitar Hero, just everyone's got to have it, takes the world by storm. It'll be part of just the new setup they have. And I mean, even just using previous PlayStation equipment, you can make a fucking ghetto Tony Stark level VR experience between the PlayStation Move, which I've heard had very, very positive
it had the
motion
best
controls.
motion controls out of all the motion controls of that era. Like the Kinect was worse. Mm-hmm. Everyone just made fun of it because it looked like a fucking magic wand.
Right, it looked like one of those fucking spinner lollipops. So you have that, and you have the PSVR, and those are technologies that they've already laid the groundwork for. I think the potential is there. If PlayStation is just bold enough to make the move, I have a modicum of faith that they could pull off something that would put VR in the common common gamer American's household.
Yeah.
By next generation. Yeah. But this generation,
yeah, it's certainly interesting to see, because that was a focus. That was something that was mentioned a lot in these press releases. VR is something that came up a lot, so it would be interesting to see. They haven't really talked about it much in a lot of these reveals.
Well, they have one of these webcams. Are they doing anything with like any sort of like motion control stuff? Because they along with like all their peripherals, they have like the PlayStation 5 headset and the controller charger, and they also have like this webcam thing that they have that has two cameras on it,
like the Kinect.
Yeah,
sort of.
I mean it's small,
Your
but it looks like the PSI, with the PlayStation Eye.
The Eye toy.
So I'm wondering if they're trying to do something with it. Maybe not VR, but like motion control, sort of like the Wii. I definitely think it's something they could develop, and
yeah.
I don't know. My only concern is that it falls by the wayside and turns into something that's like just like a gimmicky sort of peripheral,
like a Wii. Like,
that's like an add-on.
The motion
Waggling,
control was the big selling point of the Wii, and the Wii printed money, but it sold no software because everyone just bought the console, played Wii Sports for 5 minutes, and was like, I'm kind of bored of this. And then, the PlayStation Move and Kinect didn't do well because gamers didn't really want motion controls. It's one of those things that sounds good on paper, like a more engaging video game experience. But I can speak from my perspective. When I come home, I want to play a video game to unwind and relax. I don't want to have to suit up in my fucking Iron Man battle armor and fucking, run 25 kilometers in game, hacking and slashing.
God, make us sound more like lazy pieces of shit. But no, you're right. I mean, especially like if you wake up in the morning, you're like kind of groggy, you just want to turn on the thing and play, play some shooter. You don't want to be up and moving around. It's a way of relaxing, not a way of exercise. And even if half the audience feels that way, it's not going to spell success for that product.
Yeah.
You need one lane to move through, and that's why I think VR is a little bit more in that sort of wheelhouse, because you can do it seated, you can do it.
Yeah, it can be
in a relaxed position.
Yeah, it can be. It's more relaxable than like something like. I mean, I guess it would still be a VR setup, but I mean, you've seen the meme of like the treadmill controller and like the fucking all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, like that sort of setup. It's cool. I'm not saying I wouldn't want to play on that for a little bit, but it's not something I would ever invest in myself.
Yeah, that's some shit I'd see at like Dave and Buster's. Like that's like a gimmicky. You do it once or twice and you do it, but like I can't see myself absorbing 100 hours into a VR game like that where it involves so much effort.
Yeah, like I don't want to have to traverse Skyrim in real time.
And also, I mean, I think the gaming community is so. We're so demanding for perfection to an extent where if like the controls aren't working like they should be, it spells disaster. It's going to be really, really bad for that product.
The early adapters do not
just look
have
at the Kinect.
good patience. No.
I think that's where the Kinect really suffered, because people didn't mind doing certain things with the Kinect, but because there was no like things you had to grab onto. But when you can't fucking press a button or swipe screens properly because the game is so glitched, then it's like, I don't want to play this because it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't work like 10% of the time, it's like it's going to be obnoxious as shit.
It's like in Pokemon, a move is 90% accurate. But it seems to miss a lot more than it hits.
I will say.
Yeah, exactly.
The Kinect, I will put this out, the Kinect. I've been thinking about this because the Kinect was sadly a fucking amazing piece of technology that was relegated to being a games peripheral, because if you look at there are a lot of scientific papers that like use the Kinect as part of their
we used
lab
them
setups.
On one of our robots. They gave us a dev kit for it,
it's
and
fucking
we
great.
used it for targeting on a robot because it had very, very good sensors with very good resolution and very good tracking.
Yeah.
Just don't play video games with it. It's great otherwise. It's like a Raspberry Pi sort of like use your imagination, but it just is in the wrong context. So again, and that's sort of, I guess I'll pull it back together here, is that we've been talking about the next generation, even the one after this one upcoming, pulling together the context of these trends of VR, motion controls, setting gaming rigs, pulling it together into one cohesive thing that could be the future of gaming. But the question that we should keep on our minds now is, what is this console generation going to put into context? And I don't know. I think so my take right now is the aesthetics of the PS5 don't look good, don't look great, and other than some lineups, I don't have high hopes for a disruptive set of software. That's my take. We'll review it at the end of this generation.
Yep. We'll see you in
on it.
5 to 8 years, and we'll let you know how we'll let you know how right or wrong we were on like episode like 1264.
Yeah. My take on the PS5, aesthetically, I think it looks all right. A little weird, a little out there. I think they reached for it a little bit, and some people it hit, some people it didn't. But what's really going to sell this console is the games that come out with it, and I think they picked an okay lineup. Resident Evil 8, Spider-Man, they're going to hit home. Horizon, I don't know if we talked about
we missed
Horizon
the second
West. Something West. Something about going out west. But that game, I think it found I found a niche audience that they love it. and aesthetically and world building wise, that game is going to be amazing. I think it's going to be definitely up there with some of the top hitters. That's why they chose it to come out with it. Gran Turismo, whatever. It's another racing game.
People love Gran Turismo.
But it would have been nice to see like another God of War. I think that probably would have set it over the edge.
That would have been
seeing how well God of War
a
forwarded.
big launch title.
That would have been probably the main seller, to be quite honest.
That's
Spider-Man.
a system seller. We'll see if Spider-Man can be a system seller. It's a big hit, but I don't know if it can be a system seller.
I think because of the hype of how well the last Spider-Man did, people are really happy about it. So that's just my take on it. I'm not going to get it because I have a computer.
I'll probably get it because it will be backwards compatible with the PS4, and there are a lot of titles on that I want. I'm sure there will be future titles on the PS5 that I like. The design, doesn't really do it for me. I don't think it's an objectively terrible design. I just don't think it really fits in with the PlayStation ethos. I would like to see more games announced for the launch window, and I do think that they need something. Even if it's just Last of Us 2, like a cobbled together up-res PS5 port of Last of Us 2. They need something bigger for that launch window. Because, while there are quality titles here, think of some of the best video game launch titles ever. Like, you think of the Dreamcast, that had a ton of games that were all really good. You need quantity, and you need quality, and you need breadth. There isn't a whole lot of breadth here. You have a sports game, you have a racing game, you got Resident Evil, and you got Spider-Man, but those are both kind of adventure games. And then Horizon is also more of an adventure-y, and there's an RPG story there too. But I think you need a bigger breadth of titles. And it comes down to the same thing every generation. Like, you can talk all you want about the hardware, and that was the big thing on Xbox. Like, the Xbox One S and the Xbox One X, it's the most powerful console, but if there's no games to play on the console, who gives a shit how powerful it is? The software is going to be what determines the success or failure of the PS5 and Xbox Series X. And, time will tell on how good the software is. So I think we'll put a nice little bow on episode 215. I would have been really nice if we ended at 2 hours and 15 minutes, but we went a little over that. Stop by Twitch and Mixer /Saturn Studs on both for more Mass Effect 2 tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can check out our YouTube channel and social medias. All those links are on SaturnStuds.com. And until next time, be well, stay safe, and party like it's 1995.
Peace.
Bye-bye.